Watchman Newscast live stream. Wanted to come to you one last time before we head into the weekend because we've got what I think is some very important news out of the world's most, I believe, important, strategic, and volatile region and prophetic region, the Middle East. Here's the deal. We've been telling you for months now, really, that Iran's ring of fire that surrounds Israel on all sides is unraveling. It's turning into a smoldering heap of ruins before our very eyes. Hamas will be crushed decisively, well on its way to being a non-entity. Its leaders killed, thousands, tens of thousands of its foot soldiers destroyed, its tunnel network exposed and destroyed, its rocket arsenals depleted. They're in very bad shape. It's an organization really in its death throes. The one thing Hamas has now is the hostages. That's all they have. And once the hostages are released or freed, God willing, then Hamas is not long for this world. Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon, still licking its wounds since being smashed by Israel in late 2024, in the latter half of 2024. From its leadership on down, foot soldiers, all the rest in southern Lebanon, Hezbollah licking its wounds and a shell of what it was, still formidable. And Hamas is still formidable. I'm not saying it's a day in the park. Still formidable, no doubt. But let's be honest, folks, severely, severely weakened. And again, a shell of what they both were. And Hamas and Hezbollah will never reach those heights, I would say depths of strength ever again. So Hamas, Hezbollah, of course, Syria, Bashar al-Assad, his regime collapsed back in December. He's gone, living in exile in Moscow, which means Iran and Hezbollah were evicted essentially from Syria. Then you have the Shia militias in Iraq. They've been a lot more quiet over the past few months. They seem to have gotten the memo after they saw Israel smash their compadres in Hamas, Hezbollah, elsewhere. But then you have the Houthis in Yemen, which is the topic at hand. The Houthis, I've described them over the past few weeks as pretty much the last man standing in Iran's ring of fire. Well, they were still firing drones, rockets, missiles at Israel, at shipping in the Red Sea. Well, that's coming to an end now as well. And I predicted, it didn't take a genius. Many people saw the way this was going to go when President Trump took office once again, that the Houthis would be crushed because the Houthis were having a major impact on global shipping and U.S. shipping, and it was not good. They basically choked off the Red Sea, and they were forcing the United States and other countries to find alternate, very difficult and expensive routes to engage in shipping and global trade. It wasn't going to last. President Trump's all about extending U.S. influence, power, economic might around the world once again, and the Houthis stood in the way of that. Also, they were trying to kill Americans, so it didn't take a genius to see that President Trump was going to put a stop to this. Just as he was in office the first go-round, he placed the Houthis on the designated terror list. Joe Biden, for some unfathomable reason, removed the Houthis from that list when he took office. It's really not unfathomable, hard word to say. What he was doing was trying to throw Iran a bone and appease Iran. We'll take your proxies in Yemen off the terror list. Please just don't hurt us. Well, it's a new day, and we're at the point now where the Houthis are about to be ended, essentially, as any kind of major force in Yemen. How do we know that? Not only because the Trump administration has carried out punishing, highly effective waves of airstrikes against the Houthis over the past several weeks. And by all accounts, even by the Houthis' own accounts, even the Houthi spokespeople are saying they killed one of our leaders, they killed one of our commanders. So the Houthis are on the run and underground and really getting smashed. But how do we really know that the Houthis are in serious trouble? Because Iran is now saying so. The Iranian regime, the Houthis' main benefactor, the main driving force behind the Houthis' spread and the Houthis' growth, they're arming, supplying, training the Houthis. offering ideological support and inspiration to them as well. The Iranian regime now is reportedly, they've made the decision to pull out of Yemen, the Houthis' home base. They see the situation, does Iran, in Yemen for the Houthis as hopeless. They believe the Houthis will not, the ayatollahs believe the Houthis will not survive this U.S. bombing campaign ordered by President Trump. That's music to my ears. But it has left Iran, and I want you to get a sense, that's why I laid out, look, Hamas, Hezbollah smashed, Shia militias in Iraq, quiet, Assad gone. I want to give you a sense of how that ring of fire has collapsed before our very eyes. And now the Houthis, Iran itself, who spent years building the Houthis up, Iran itself is saying, we don't think they're going to survive this. So we're going to get out of Dodge and hightail it out of Yemen. After we caused all that chaos and mayhem in Yemen, this is Iran's MO, right? They spread their tentacles, the Iranian regime, the head of the snake, the head of the octopus, spreads its tentacles throughout the region, Gaza, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Judea, Samaria, the West Bank. And they cause chaos. They drive a country into the ground, and then they either exit or they say, we had nothing to do with it. So that's what they're doing in Yemen right now. The British Telegraph newspaper reported this on Thursday. The Telegraph reported that Iran has reportedly ordered its military personnel to leave Yemen and is pulling back its support for the Houthis amid extensive U.S. airstrikes on the rebel group. The Telegraph cited a senior Iranian official who said that Tehran is scaling back its support of its regional proxies to focus on the direct threats to Iran emanating from the U.S. administration. Every meeting among the Iranian regime is dominated by discussions about Donald Trump, the official was quoted as saying, the Iranian official. According to this official, Iran's pullback from Yemen was designed to avoid the possibility of escalation if an Iranian soldier is killed in U.S. airstrikes there, meaning you had Iranian assets on the ground, just as you did in Lebanon and in Syria. And on occasion, when Israel carried out strikes against Hezbollah, various jihadis in Lebanon and Syria, Iranian officials, Revolutionary Guards in particular, would be caught in the crossfire, so to speak, and they'd be killed too. They shouldn't have been there in the first place, but there you have it. Iran has a presence in all of its satellite states, in particular Lebanon, Syria, but also Yemen in a major way. Of course, Iraq, not in Gaza anymore. But Iran saying, look, we don't want our guys to get killed, because if our guys get killed, we might have to try and have some sort of response, and then it escalates things, and we end up in a very bad way. Tehran, according to this official, is focusing its efforts instead on how to respond to Trump, the Trump effect, folks, and his litany of threats. And none of the regional groups we previously supported are even being discussed. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the militias, we can't even think about them right now. We got to focus on the direct threat that Donald Trump poses to our very existence, and in particular, our nuclear program. It's a new day. They never had these kinds of discussions about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, I can assure you of that. The view here, this official says, is that the Houthis will not be able to survive and are living their final months or even days. So there is no point in keeping them on our list of groups to support. They were part of a chain that relied on Nasrallah and Assad, who are both dead. And keeping only one part of that chain for the future makes no sense, the official continued. The Telegraph report came amid a U.S. aerial campaign against the Houthis that has seen near daily strikes in rebel-held areas of Yemen since March 15th. The strikes are aimed at stopping the Iran-backed group from attacking commercial shipping in solidarity with Hamas And the Trump administration says it is sending a second aircraft carrier group to the Middle East to bolster its campaign to deter aggression and protect the free flow of commerce, which the Houthis were affecting in a major way, of course. This is not good for the Houthis and for the Iranian regime. It's great for Israel, America, and the free world writ large. So this gives you an idea of what a bad way Iran is. What a turnaround. Not only the Ring of Fire. Listen, folks, I mean, before October 7th, certainly, before Hamas signed its own death warrant by invading Israel and then was smashed. But even take it up to early September 2024. The Ring of Fire, other than the Gaza ring, was intact. Hezbollah was feeling good about itself, launching missiles, rockets at Israel every day. Assad was still in power. The Houthis were feeling great about themselves. The Shia militias in Iraq were feeling great about themselves. First, the Hamas ring was removed, but then in September, Israel struck with Operation Exploding Pager, then eliminated Nasrallah, then eliminated Hezbollah's military leadership, then invaded southern Lebanon on the ground. All of a sudden, it's been so rapid. Iran, the Iranian regime, spent decades building up this Ring of Fire, funding, arming, training these proxies. Now it's all out the window. The Ring of Fire has collapsed. Iran now is licking its wounds, has its back against the wall, and is rushing and trying to gather itself to defend against President Trump and what is very well coming. And that is a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, either by the U.S., by Israel, perhaps with both working in tandem, or in the very least with an enthusiastic green light for Israel to do it from the Trump administration. I want you to get a sense of how desperate the Iranian regime is right now. Every meeting, you heard it, is what do we do about Trump? What do we do about Trump? Because now Trump is applying maximum pressure yet again, turning up the sanctions. The regime is feeling the heat, and they're worried about their survival. What a difference leadership makes. I want to unpack this a bit more. Where does this all go? So Iran is basically Fortress Iran now. So they're abandoning their proxies to their fate. What a bitter pill to swallow for the Iranian regime. I have no sympathy for them, obviously, but you have to shake your head. Eventually, everything that's done in darkness has been brought to light. It is brought to light, I should say. Eventually, I always say this, truth and justice and God's truth eventually win out. It might seem all is lost, and how are these evil people getting away with such evil acts like Iran, the regime, has done for 46 years? Eventually, God's justice wins out, and evil is exposed and uprooted and destroyed. And we're seeing that process take place right now. I want to give you an idea of where I think this is all heading in a minute. Before I do, two quick reminders. Number one, if you like what you're hearing, current events, breaking news, mainly from the Middle East, but we go around the horn, around the world, depending on the news cycle. And we do it from an unapologetically biblical perspective. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts. Every time a new video is posted, if anything happens over the weekend, will come to you as well. Also, quick reminder, we've got the YouTube channel, over 1 million subscribers. It's amazing. We're also on X, Facebook, and Instagram. You can follow us across social media, and you'll get content at X, on Facebook, Instagram, that you won't get here on the YouTube channel. Interviews, all sorts of good stuff. So be sure, it's completely free. Just follow, subscribe at Facebook, Twitter, X, and Instagram as well. I think it's at Erick Stakelbeck on Twitter and Facebook, and at Erick.Stakelbeck on Instagram. Quick search, I'll pop up, you'll find me. We'd love to build up our presence there as well, and we'd love for you to get the great content we're bringing there too. Let's get into the long term with Iran, and here's the biggie, the prophetic implications. And before I do it, where do you think this is going? We've got a highly educated audience of watchmen and women on the wall. We've got thousands of people watching us live right now. I'd love you to weigh in, and we have a very active chat here. What are your thoughts on, I mean, what a turn of events and reversal of fortunes, right? I mean, 5 months ago, the Iranian regime was puffing out its chest and feeling great about itself. The ring of fire was still strong, even though Gaza was gone, and Iran still had air defenses, which are mostly smashed now, thanks to Israel as well. I mean, and now we're at the point where they're abandoning their proxies wholesale and just rallying the troops back in Iran to try and stave off an inevitable strike from the Trump administration. It's, or maybe not from the U.S., but inevitable strike from somebody, the U.S. or Israel. I mean, what a turn of events. I want your thoughts on that. I want to know where you think this is heading. Prophetic implications? Could we see this regime collapse, or does this regime hang around long enough that it meets its ultimate demise in the war of Gog and Magog, as the prophet Ezekiel lays out? Let me know what you think. Meantime, we've got a great partner today for the live stream, and we can't do this by ourselves. To have a large channel and a TV show and all the rest, we have some great partners, causes I personally believe in. My prerequisite is that any organization I partner with is, number one, doing God's work, and number two, blessing Israel. Mayor Panim checks both boxes in a beautiful way. It's israelcharity.org. If you've been watching me for a while, you know Mayor Panim is one of our dear friends here at the channel. We love working with them. I've been on the ground at Mayor Panim's incredible soup kitchens in Israel, feeding Holocaust survivors, one of the honors and privileges of my life. To give you an idea of what Mayor Panim does, they distributed 125,000 pantry boxes throughout the Jewish holidays last year in Israel. Passover's coming up, April 12th. We're there, crucial time. Yom Kippur, other Jewish holidays, Sukkot. They provided over 2.6 million meals to Israelis in need, supported 2,000 families displaced by the wars in the North and the South, and cared for 2,200 Holocaust survivors. That really gets me. Mayor Panim took care of them with daily meals and support. They also supported hundreds of widows and mothers and wives of IDF soldiers who are in battle right now. They renovated 500 homes for poverty-stricken families and Holocaust survivors. They served thousands of displaced families and fed over 1.2 million people in 1 year, in 2024, with their 5 restaurant-style soup kitchens. These are beautiful facilities with high-quality food. Now, Mayor Panim, and again, it's israelcharity.org, and you are fulfilling the biblical mandate when you bless Mayor Panim to bless the people of Israel. It goes right to directly Israel's neediest and most vulnerable. israelcharity.org, Genesis 12:3, bless the people of Israel, biblical mandate. Here you go. Mayor Panim's goals this year: they need hundreds of thousands of dollars of grocery shopping cards so that families who are in need can get what they need. Use these cards to buy a Passover meal, important time for the people of Israel, where they want to be together and have a memorable Passover. Grocery cards for that. Over 25,000 ready-made meals for those who can't cook, who can't afford a meal. Mayor Panim's providing it. Over 100,000 pantry bags with staple foods, the stuff you need, milk, eggs, butter, etc. And dozens upon dozens of Passover Seder meals in the cities of Dimona and Sfat, where it's a little tough economically, to say the least. So what are you waiting for? It is israelcharity.org. Fulfill the mandate to bless Israel now. Partner with Mayor Panim for such a time as this. Love this organization. They really are awesome. Okay, I see the chat, and I see what we're talking about here. And it seems like the consensus is Iran is in deep doo-doo, as they say, and I agree. Here's where I see this going. President Trump's not going to let up. And we had a great interview, by the way, yesterday with Jonathan Conricus, Lieutenant Colonel, former Lieutenant Colonel in the Israel Defense Forces, former spokesperson for the IDF. He now works at FDD, a great think tank in Washington, D.C. But Jonathan laid out a few options. He said, look, here's an option of where this is going with Iran. There's a deal, and it's a bad nuclear deal, and something similar to what Obama cut in 2015 with the mullahs. That ain't happening under President Trump. Or there's a deal where it's a good deal, where the Iranian regime agrees under tremendous pressure from the Trump administration, under tremendous pressure that they're going to lose their regime, they agree to abandon their nuclear weapons program. The chances, folks, are slim to none. They've spent decades building up this nuclear program. They're ideological fanatics. And if they give up the program, they look weak, not only to their allies and their terror compadres, but to the Iranian people, who may just rise up against them if they smell weakness, as well they should, because the Iranian people are the main victims of this wicked, evil regime. Another option, and the most likely one, I think, by process of elimination, military action. I think right now for Israel, certainly, and I believe the Trump administration recognizes this fact, the Iranian regime has never been more vulnerable than it is right now to a strike on its nuclear facilities. If you're going to do it, now's the time. I encourage you, by the way, if you missed yesterday's newscast with Jonathan Conricus, former IDF lieutenant colonel, check that out in our archives. He's one of the best. He had a lot of important things to say about not only Iran, the nuclear program, and what's coming, but the region writ large. But folks, I'm sorry. If I'm wrong, tell me. We've got the active chat here. Everyone's opining. Am I missing something? I don't see President Trump agreeing to a bad deal for America. No way. He pulled out of the first Iran deal back in 2018 and said it was the worst deal in history. And I quote, so that's not going to happen. He is the ultimate deal maker. He's made clear he wants to solve this diplomatically. But Iran just last weekend rejected his offer of direct diplomacy. And again, does anyone watching right now really think Iran's going to do what Gaddafi did back in 2003 and give up their nuclear weapons program and say, you know what, the price is too high? And the price could be their existence as a regime. But this is who they are. Without being in power and being tyrannical and being evil, why should they exist? Look, they've already lost their ring of fire. If anything, which was a huge deterrent, because when they had Hamas and Hezbollah and the others perched on Israel's borders at full strength, Israel had to think twice about striking Iran's nuclear facilities because the ring of fire would have opened fire in response. So Iran has lost that deterrent. They've lost the majority, reportedly, of their air defenses. So that's two major deterrents down and out. You're telling me they're going to agree to give up their nuclear weapons program, which is the ultimate deterrent? I'm sorry, I highly doubt it. I can't see them doing it. And it's a matter for them at this point of national pride in their view. I can't see them doing it. I don't see how this doesn't end in some form of military action to destroy those nuclear sites. And look, maybe President Trump's got something. Maybe there's some kind of deal, but any deal that does not end with Iran eliminating and abandoning its nuclear program once and for all, 100%. Any deal that doesn't do that is not a good deal. And I think the president and his team know that. They know Iran's been dragging its feet for years. They can't be trusted. President Trump's not naive, to say the least. I don't see any way this doesn't end in some form of military action. Now, perhaps it's not U.S. military action. Perhaps it's Israeli military action, but the Trump administration will certainly support it. And now Iran, again, they're licking their wounds. They're returning all their forces to Iran and saying, oh, gosh, is this our last stand now that Trump's in office? Trump is their worst nightmare. And I love it. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch or a not nicer bunch. The predicament they find themselves in right now was completely self-created. They made a conscious decision. They chose to engage in terror and sow mayhem throughout the Middle East and really around the world. Now they're reaping what they have sown. And they're going to end up, you see it now, they'll end up in the ash heap of history, just as every other Jew-hating regime has throughout history. Look, for them, it's much more likely not to abandon their program, but to race to the finish line and acquire a bomb and announce, we've got it. We've got the ultimate deterrent, a nuclear bomb. We've gone the North Korea route. That's what's more likely. They're eventually going to meet their demise in a moment of reckoning. The question I have for you is, when does that come? Do they hang on? Are they overthrown just soon? I mean, in short order, the nuclear program is destroyed. The people of Iran rise up, and there you have it. That's one scenario that could see them being shown the door. Are they able to weather this storm long enough so that they can join with Turkey and Russia, perhaps, and others in that Ezekiel coalition that comes against Israel in, quote, the latter days, as Ezekiel describes it? Will the regime hang on long enough to be a part of that? They're going to be a Persia, which is ancient Iran. In the modern day, it's called Iran. It was called Persia at the time Ezekiel wrote it. They're in there. They're part of that Ezekiel invasion force. Does that mean that maybe the nuclear sites are destroyed and the regime is weakened, but the regime's not toppled? Interesting scenario there. Or perhaps the regime is toppled and something, God forbid, also very bad comes to power that is still anti-Israel, God forbid again. But that's an interesting wrinkle here to think about. The nuclear sites, I believe, will be destroyed unless there's some miraculous act of diplomatic daring and Iran has a change of heart. I just don't see how this doesn't end in some form of military action. Maybe I'm wrong. And perhaps I'll be proven wrong, and that's okay. It's a free country. But, man, it seems like the winds are blowing in that direction. And I want to read your comments afterwards and read the chat a little bit more and see what you're all saying, because we have such an educated audience. It's a privilege to come to you practically every day here on the channel. Be sure to keep it right here. If anything happens over the weekend, we'll come to you, certainly on Monday. But in the meantime, spend time with your family this weekend. Spend time in prayer. Take a load off. Get that Shabbat rest. Whether you're Jewish or not, Shabbat's a great thing. Enjoy the people you love. Faith, family, freedom. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.